morning, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings. Or if this isn't morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day. I had to be in the post office yesterday. As soon as I opened the door, what do I hear? Dozens upon dozens of baby chickens going chirp chirp, tweet tweet, chirp chirp, tweet tweet. I suspect, local feed store had received a new batch of newborn chickens. This is the second time I've been in the post office since acquiring these 12, where I've heard the unmistakable sound of the sorority of feathers. As you can see, a good number of them are perched on the various mezzanines. Three on the upper mezzanine and the other 9 on the secondary mezzanine. And one raced down the ladder. So, I have some tasks I need to complete, such as making my bed. But I wanted to share that, how it is people acquire chickens, and one of the ways is apparently through the Postal Service.
I saw some stuff recently on X being shared about how amazing the Amish are, and how people appreciate the Amish, and how they don't worry about the small inconveniences of the world or modern technology.
If you follow Matt Von Swall, he highlights a lot of the Amish efforts for North Carolina as far as helping rebuild. How rapid were the Amish, and the quality of craftsmanship is unparalleled. Obviously, as you're listening to this and as I'm making this, we're very integrated with technology, but one thing I may not have told you, or not recently, is I've learned how to make butter at home. I've learned how to make refried beans at home. I have a garden, I have chickens, as you can see. And these little small efforts at improving craftsmanship for self-sufficiency don't make me Amish on any level. I'm aware of that. But I see and appreciate the appeal of having been more intimately involved in the production of the food that I consume. I don't know. And doing things that I do by hand, building a flower box, a garden box for my garden items, platforms for the cats to jump from up onto and run through. I digress. I mean, none of that is Amish, but there's that sense of pride and satisfaction in having done something by your own hand, whether it's food production or home improvement.
They worry about God and family and each other, and it got me wondering. You know, after reading some of the comments, it's like, because some of the guys are like, "Hey, how do I join an Amish community? Can I find a young, beautiful, virgin wife, and I'll be just a hard-working man?" And you know, I got a lot of up comments on there, and so it got me to thinking: do the Amish have it right? Now, I read a lot about the Amish, and I have, you know, in the past, but I dove a little deeper into this, and I think it's really interesting because the Amish, some of them live like it's the 1600s. Some live like it's the 1950s, and others have incorporated a little bit more modernity into their lives. The funny thing about this photo was actually, let me see if I have the photo. Where did I save it? Right here. The funny thing is that these girls aren't pregnant yet. They're not bad looking. I know many of you would say they're not supermodels by any means, but I can think of quite a few of you that, as a younger man or a man that would like to get married to have family, if these women showed up and they said, we're going to do all the cooking and the cleaning and we'll tend to the chickens and we'll marry you and you have all say over the family and patriarchy and men have the last say and whatever you say goes and we're barefoot and we're willing, you just need to do us the pregnant part. I think a lot of guys would be like,
"You're a smart motherfucker, that's right."
I'm in. Let's do this. So I wanted to dig into this a little bit. Here's what set me down this path from Matt Van Swol. Astonishing drone footage has emerged of 150 Amish men in New York carrying a barn hundreds of feet. The entire move took less than 5 minutes. If you look, this is not creeping along. Like, they're moving at a pretty good clip. That would be what I look like if I was carrying a probably 150-pound dumbbell, or barbell, I should say, walking across the ground. This is at 1 times speed. And they're moving at a pretty good clip. Now, this is a 3-minute clip, so I don't want to play it for all 3 minutes. But I will play it at 2 times speed. And you look at these guys, are moving a barn where they built it in the back, and they're moving it up here and putting it on a concrete slab. They can say, wait a minute, I didn't mean to unmute that. You might say, well, look, there's pickup trucks. Well, yes, not all of them go by the same rule. But here in the back above my head, right up here, you can see a lot of buggies. So, you know, different families have different communities maybe, have different rules. I find it interesting. You know, so you see that shared a lot. Chimney Rock, North Carolina. So if you guys remember, you guys were really kind. You donated funds to me. I went out and bought Pampers and baby formula and food and gas cans and water, pallets of water. And we took that up and donated to the people of North Carolina and East Tennessee that got washed out by the hurricane that happened last year, this previous summer. When I say Chimney Rock, which is one of the areas I went to that was completely washed out. Like, it looked like no humans had even lived there. Roads were gone, everything was gone. It said Chimney Rock, North Carolina officials confirmed that 50 people from the Pennsylvania Amish community have been rotating in to help the town rebuild every single week for months. Officials also say the Amish have refused to be paid for their labor. God bless the Amish. Now, I want to play this because there's an overall theme that I'm getting to.
About 50 people from the Amish community spread out across Chimney Rock and surrounding mountain towns. A new group of them coming down from their homes in Pennsylvania every week, sawing, nailing, building back communities destroyed by Helene.
And out of 40, 50 Amish people, you probably got 5 different trades that are skilled crafted workers. Either brick masons, decks, roofers, concrete work.
Brad Marshall with Christian nonprofit organization and disaster response group Spokes of Hope says their faith responders line up the work, resources, and material, and the Amish help get the jobs done.
And at the end of the week, we've got 15, 20 jobs done, and hopefully about 8 or 10 people back in their homes.
Main Street here actually used to be full of about 6 feet of mud.
Business owners like Kristen Sotilli say this kind of help is what will ultimately get the village back up and running.
I don't know what we would have done without them. I mean, you know, not having to pay for labor and just having the help surmounts anything that we could be grateful for.
And homeowners like Bill Piercy, who had damage from a mudslide, say the Amish know how to build for the future. So if another storm rolls through, the community is better prepared.
You see this guy right here is using a handsaw. He's not using a power saw like the other gal was.
They're hard workers and they're craftsmen, and they do it right, and so we're just really blessed.
But this one's using a power tool. I think it depends on the family, maybe the community. But these are a bunch of Amish coming down from Pennsylvania. You know, in many ways, they live like it's hundreds of years ago. And everybody's like, oh, it's so nice, we don't have to pay them. Why don't you have to pay? And other people say, well, that's stupid, they should at least get the money. But they don't need the money. They do most of the jobs themselves, they do the work themselves.
I would be concerned is the fixation that these people are benefiting off the labor of others, to which they don't have to pay for. You know, are they? Is it with a level of entitlement, or is it with gratitude? That's only something that each of us can answer individually, and would be judged by our own actions of how it is reciprocated if the roles were reversed.
They tend to their own fields, they grow their own food, they build their own homes, they cut down their own trees, they have their own sawmills. They can, when you have that kind of self-sufficiency, you don't need money, you don't need anything from anybody. And so in many ways, they're like, if there was an apocalypse tomorrow and society just collapsed, humankind will continue on. They're called the Amish. They already have the tools, they have the way of life, they have the materials, they have the horses. They, you know, yes, they do buy some modern conveniences, but not much. And again, it depends on which group of the Amish. Some do buy things, some don't.
We come out here every morning and we work mostly in Chimney Rock, some down in Bat Cave.
These volunteers are members of the Great Needs Trust, an Amish community in Pennsylvania, offering not just their skilled hands and their time, but their compassion as well.
We wanted to help the people that had the disaster. Our heart just felt drawn to come help.
Since the storm, more than 2,000 volunteers have stepped in to help rebuild, and donations have poured in. Kindness from strangers, helping their neighbors.
All of the building material that's going into rebuilding these stores has been donated up to this point, and it's just been a tremendous recovery story that is ongoing.
They are not just fixing buildings in Chimney Rock. They are rebuilding a sense of community. One nail at a time.
It's just inspiring to me to see how people can pull together and work together and get something done.
It just fills my heart with joy, just watching people just get their life back again.
There's still plenty of work ahead, but for Chimney Rock, recovery is clearly in motion. And now these volunteers from hundreds of miles away have become part of this mountain town's future.
The reason I wanted to talk about this specific story, or this part of the story, is because so many times you hear, oh yeah, but who would take care of us? How would we have roads if we didn't get taxed and we didn't have government? How would we ever rebuild if it weren't for FEMA, if it weren't for our taxes, if it weren't for all the things they take from us? FEMA still hasn't done much out there. I mean, they're doing a little bit. I'm not saying that they're not out there at all. But they're doing more of the road construction and trying to rebuild and reshape the river. But there's actually a lot of private contractors that are doing that as well. Who's actually rebuilding the town, the homes, making them livable, helping the people get back to it. The Amish, and they're donating their time, and a lot of the materials are being donated by other citizens like me and like you guys that donated to me to go buy things, to go take up to them. If you took how much we pay in taxes for these stupid programs and just put it in the bank and set it aside as a tithing for a church, or 10% of your income set aside to help your fellow man, and something like this happens, not only would it be taken care of faster, cheaper, but it would be done by friends helping friends. The government does nothing. And I think this is interesting because the Amish, they don't need the government. They have each other. The other thing I noticed watching a lot of these videos is that here you have women hanging drywall. There wasn't a guy hovering over them telling them how to do it. These are women that know how to hang drywall. If you look back on that other video, there were women running hand saws and table saws and just dropping lumber into a pile. They weren't worried about their nails or getting splinters or how do I do this or I need a man to help me. So in many ways, the Amish women are actually less, well, I mean in all ways, all single ways, Amish women are less feminized, but they're also more capable. Just more capable as women, more capable as human beings, more capable as workers. Like the women are in there getting their hands dirty and getting it done, wearing their old traditional garb even. But the thing that impressed me is they were smiling, and a lot of them were laughing, and they were having fun as they were doing this, and not as if it was a joke, but they were genuinely enjoying themselves. They were genuinely enjoying their time with their friends, their family, people of their age, people in their community. They like each other. They're not tens of people that are friends or that know each other. They're hundreds strong in these communities. And you care about these people and their well-being, and they care about yours. And you have friends in this community that are probably lifelong friends that will help you raise your children, or if you have a lame horse or you need a barn, you need a 100,000-pound barn, or 50,000-pound barn, carried across your property to relocate it. And they just all show up in there as a community. I think in many ways the Amish people have it right. I remember when I was a kid, and I'm trying to get to the main story, but I guess this whole thing is just the main story. But it does relate to mine and probably many of your lives. When I was a kid, there weren't video games. I mean, they had the old football game that had those little digital dashes so you could push up and down and forward, and you could beep, 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 and if you could run it across the screen 5 times, they counted it as a touchdown, some stupid thing like that. That's when I was in my teens. I mean, like, they didn't really have much, like, under the age of 10 or 12, and I think the first computer we got, which is an 8086 processor, which you can look it up, it had nothing for memory. I got that when I was like 14 or 15 or somewhere around there, maybe 16. We didn't have computers. So when people are like, God, what would you ever do without video games? We did great. We did great. I never missed a video game. We never had them. How do you miss something you don't have? It was great. What about the internet? I didn't get the internet until I was, 24, 23, 24, 25, somewhere around there. We didn't have internet. When I was in the military, we didn't have internet in our...
To put it in perspective, when I was in elementary school, around 10 years of age, I went to a private school for a short period of time, and they had a dedicated computer lab for one class period, and we learned what was called Turtle. It was a very simplistic version of BASIC, and after we became functional in Turtle, we were introduced to BASIC. I remember learning how to write basic code to create a box, typing go-to statements and proceeding to a certain distance, turning right, and I, wasn't even, competent at a lot of this stuff at the time. And I was trying, I didn't see it for what it was, and that is a box is a series of 4 right angles. And you have to write the program in such a way, because the first image that came up was a very crooked isosceles angle. It wasn't even a triangle. My friends, their parents got them the little deep, hash mark football games, and such that my father would get these computer magazines, and in the back they would have a variety of programs, that had been submitted. And as he was saying, in 8086 didn't have much in the way of memory. I learned how to save my projects on cassette tapes. Taking a cassette recorder with cassette tape and recording the program I had just typed into the computer. And then if I wanted to use it in the future, I had to reload it from that cassette tape. So I would take these programs that were in the back of the computing magazine. We had a Texas Instruments 994 Alpha. There weren't often computer programs. You didn't go to the store to buy the software in a package. You submitted it. You wrote the code and you would submit it to this magazine, and then they would put it in the back of the magazine. They had it for the various Apple, Atari, Commodores, and whatnot. Then what would happen is you would write it on your computer, save it to a cassette, and then reload it as you needed it. Well, since there weren't very many computer programs for the 499-4A, I learned how to adapt the other Texas Instruments programs to the 4A. I have to rewrite the code to get it to be functional. It was a learning process, but that's what we had to do back in the day. We had to troubleshoot it, diagnose it.
Our rooms, internet didn't really exist. We just didn't have it. Wow, how did you get along without it? Great, we didn't have it.
So one of my end goals, I don't like the concept of a monopoly that the state has mandated that an entity, an organization, can have a monopoly, whether it's a power utility, telecommunications, even, cable companies. It doesn't matter. I've never been a fan of it. They've gotten away with various levels of fraud for, well over 100 years. Whether it's the stories of Westinghouse and Tesla, whether it's the stories of the telephone company charging all the users for the war, the Spanish-American War, which began in 1898, which only recently saw customers being refunded for that fraud. Or the stories of somebody setting up their own power generation, such as a wind turbine or solar panel, and being dictated by whatever community dictate, county, municipal, whatever, that they can't have a competing service, that they have to buy it from the utility provider. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what other aspects are not being included in such accounts, but I find those efforts to limit who it is that can provide services, I find them to be abhorrent. So it's been my goal to see mass communications become what it is today. I didn't have the internet either, had no concept of what it, was, opportunity to get the internet. Let's see, I too was in my mid-20s, and it was a novelty. I had no idea how it worked. I remember trying to ask the school computer lab teacher while I was waiting for my child to finish class, can I use the internet? Because I was interested in the STAR report that had been released about the Clinton investigation back in the 90s. And you just kind of have this flat look of, of disinterest. So, and I probably wasn't, I was trying to be tactical in my approach, because even a private school, you don't know who it is that is just going to be offended by a contrary political opinion. I mean, they're not even contrary. They're more like just extensions of the same opinion. But I digress. It's just throwback as to how much has changed in 35 years, 30 years.
It wasn't a thing. So if you've never had these things to miss, then you don't miss them. So the Amish that don't have TV and don't watch the news and don't have internet, don't have, the spicy websites, they don't miss it because they never have it. So what do they do instead? I'm sure they do a lot of praying. They spend a lot of time with family. They learn maybe to play musical instruments, or in the case of the men, they work. But it's the same thing when I went to, when I was in Peru. When I was backpacking around Peru with the group that I did the ayahuasca trip with.
So what is it they do in their spare time? I've made my commentaries as to learn a new skill, drop a vice, Six Hexen Hammer promotes quite often, if you follow any of his works. My grandparents grew up in an era that he's describing, of no modern conveniences, for them. It's not that they didn't exist, it's just they weren't guaranteed. So I have no idea if they had power, I have no idea if they had indoor plumbing, because we're talking about roughly 100 years ago. And granted, these things existed, but in the cities. Alright, so I've relearned how to play the guitar. I do a lot of reading and share that reading as videos for any of you to listen to, either because you're limited in time and listen on your way to somewhere, or to get you through the day. If you're illiterate or blind, those are the reasons that I do that, because I'm already reading it. I may as well share that with all of you, which I plan to get back to finishing up what everybody is saying once my schedule relaxes a bit. The thing that I want to really focus on, though, is develop your skills. If you have an interest in something, learn how to do it. You may find out it's beyond your ability, but it's that having made that first action. And don't wait for the right time. Just start doing it. And don't sink a lot of money into it, just start doing it. You might be, I was able to check out, I walked into the library, I used the computer and flash screen, there's splash screens, saw it right off the bat as I got on there, that they had a guitar class being offered. I already knew the neighboring library had musical instruments. So I asked the staff if there was a way of doing an interlibrary it had just coincided. Somebody had donated a guitar, and it hadn't been strung nor tuned. But I asked, I said, you know, is there any chance that this guitar would be ready for the class? It was either that night or the very next night. The timing was very coincidental, not even coincidental, synchronicity. It is events such as that that make people, believe in such things as synchronicity. Everything lined up. The guitar being donated, my being at the library learning of the class, and that it being available with openings still, within 24 hours or 30 hours max, that scenario. And it reawakened the passion inside of me that for 2 years I played my guitar anywhere from an hour to 6 hours a day, every day. And I sounded horrible for the longest time, but I kept at it. And now, as I made some videos earlier in the year, later last year, you've heard the playing, and I enjoy it. I enjoy playing music more than I derive pleasure from hearing others. I appreciate a live band more, a community, local live band more because of learning that skill.
And I saw.
And the reason I bring up my grandparents is, as children, they were, for lack of a better word, they were prostituted out for their music ability. They, from a near infancy, pretty much from toddlerhood on, were instructed on how to play a variety of musical instruments, sing and dance, and they would take their siblings and or cousins or neighbors as a child musical troupe and play at various venues to get even some money. That is how destitute some of our families, just 80 to, maybe even 60 years ago, were, and how they brought money in. You might remember phrases, from the various world wars as victory gardens, or people taking their homes and renting out rooms in order to make certain they had money coming in and creating a long-term bed and breakfast facilities. People did some very novel, very creative things to generate income, to provide skills, to gain skills and provide a service. I find it fascinating just how much we have lost in 100 years. And as he said, you had Amish women in there doing sheetrock, using the tools. And we make fun of the women who make insane comments about, I didn't even know why we invented gravity, or the windshield wiper fluid being poured into the oil reservoir of the car.
Little family of, they were living in a cinder block home with corrugated tin on the roof, and it looked like it had been patched 100 times, and you had 4 generations of people living in it. Great-great-grandparents, grandparents, mom, dad, and the youngest of the young that were parents were like 15, 16. There was a couple 15, 16-year-olds carrying around what I assumed to be their baby. And they're all under one roof that was the size of this room I'm living in now. And you could hear them playing guitar and laughing. And the kids were playing some game. It wasn't a board game, but it was something or other. And they were giggling and laughing. They were happy. How many people sit in front of their computers lonely? How many people sit around saying, I got all this stuff and I don't have any friends? I think in many ways the Amish have it right on this stuff. And so I said, maybe they had it right. Because originally, I named this thumbnail, The Amish Were Right. But then after that was before I read the articles. And then after I said, well, maybe the Amish were right on some things. Because all the time, you hear men talking about, they should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. And men should be the patriarchy, and men should be doing X, Y, Z, and women should be doing this. But after you read about Amish men and Amish women, the Amish women had it much better than the men, even though the men were the patriarchy. And I found that really fascinating, that you think the patriarchy would be great, but the Amish patriarchy is not great. The 1950 patriarchy was probably awesome, where you could be shagging your secretary Linda while you're at your job, 9-to-5 job, and then you go home to your wife and your kids, where she cooked you dinner and the kids hand you your slippers and your whiskey. I think that's what men think of when they think of the patriarchy. This is what I think most men would want from women when they think of real traditional tradcon women, right? It's Amish women, what's expected out of Amish women in the community. In Amish society, the role of women is primarily focused on domestic duties and family responsibilities. They're responsible for cooking, cleaning, raising children. They often work on the family farm or in family businesses. They do not hold positions of authority in the church. They're not allowed to be ministers or bishops. However, they do have an important role in the church as caretakers of the family and community. Women are expected to dress modestly, wear head coverings as a sign of submission to God and their husbands. They're expected to adhere to strict codes of behavior and morality. Despite limitations placed on their roles in society, Amish women are highly respected and valued for their contributions to the family and the community. They're viewed as essential to the survival of the Amish way of life and of the continuation of the traditions. Now, for those of you curious, it is an Amish woman that is writing this. There are many rules in Amish communities, and they're told what they may or may not do, what they may wear or not wear. How many of you would like that in today's society? All parts of this, by the way. I'm not talking about just the last sentence, all parts. Women take care of the home. Women are respected. They're respected mothers. They're respected and necessary part of the community. And everyone knows what right from wrong. We have a mutual agreement on community. And so you don't have anyone breaking the law. Because children are corrected at a young age for their views to be in alignment of the community. And if they're not, get out. I mean, not literally get out, but like, you're not operating under the eyes of the Lord, and they're corrected. And eventually, if they don't get along with those, they're given the opportunity to leave. It's called Rumspringa. I'll talk about that in a minute. But here, the outsiders, you get rid of the outsiders that don't fit in, and you just keep everybody that has an agreement to be part of this community. And then you have a pretty good community. No makeup, no jewelry. She should never try to attract attention to herself. Boy, could some TikTok whoas be taking some lessons there. Amish women are supposed to have a meek and quiet spirit, dress modestly, and support their husbands. So I said, well, what are the men's lives like? If that's what we expect from women, right? Would we be willing to do what the Amish men must do to earn that honor from their wives, right? Like, if we want women to be like this, what is expected of us as the men in this scenario? The Patriarchy and the Amish Man. This is written by John Katz. He said he's not Amish, and as a matter of fact, trying to get Amish men to speak on the subject is very difficult. He says they mostly want to be left alone to live their lives in a way and stay true to their faith. We've had several conversations about the Amish culture in the church and the idea of the patriarchy, which is the real secret to how they govern their communities. I don't quote Amish men in the piece. Speaking out makes them uncomfortable and is discouraged and vain and self-serving. but most were happy to talk with me if I kept them anonymous while we took our long rides together. So they're not vain men, they're not proud men, they're humble men as well. The author says, but the surprising thing for me is that I've come to feel considerable sympathy for the patriarchs that I see. I was expecting rigid authoritarians. That's not what I found. They work themselves to death and bear almost sole responsibility for the feeding and housing large numbers of children and grandchildren. The father is expected to build his own house and the houses and barns of his children. This is an enormous undertaking. The work is relentless and never-ending. These kings don't live in luxurious castles with enslaved people. They work every minute of every day but Sunday. There are no trappings of luxury. I came to feel that the patriarchy marginalizes the Amish man to a lifetime of endless responsibility, physical labor, grueling hours, and sacrifice. I bought a lot of books for Amish men I bought a lot of boots for Amish men with holes in their shoes in the sun, rain, snow, and ice. They all told me that suffering is sacred for them. They will accept help in some ways, but never ask for it. They don't know about most other things beyond their family and community, and they aren't interested. They consider too much news or information to be dangerous to their faith. The world of the Amish man is small and intensely bounded. There's an all-encompassing devotion to Jesus. There is very little time to work, supervise, and plan for the next task. Their friends are almost always other Amish people. Their socializing is done with other Amish families. Much of the time, they're either building their barns and houses or traveling to build the homes and places for other Amish people. They do this with considerable joy and minor complaints, but they are often exhausted. They always keep going. I saw one young man working on a barn raising fall off a ladder 10 or 15 feet above the ground. Everyone else kept working. 3 young women came running out to rub the man's wounds and make sure he was all right. A few minutes later, he was hobbling around the 3rd floor. Nobody said a word about it. I noticed from the first that there was not a lot of older Amish men. The younger men work so hard, they don't live a long time. I rarely see Amish women much older either. Some have as many as 15 children. There are no statistics that I can find, but the work that Amish men like my friend Moisey does is not possible too far beyond late middle age. The same is true of their wives, who have as many children as possible. They wear out, and they rarely see doctors unless there's no alternative or the pain is too great. Amish men are subject to all kinds of injuries, both natural and from the antiquated equipment they use, since electric power is forbidden to them. Now, if you remember in the video we just watched, there were some Amish people using electric tools. It's not the same for every community of Amish. That does matter. Back troubles, broken limbs, hernias, torn rotator cuffs, and tendons are epidemic. We're primed to focus on the genuine suffering and persecution of women, which is real, but I can't help but see the real suffering of the Amish man as well as I got closer to them. There are no days off for them. Imagine if you take some time off and you're a little bit lazy and somebody in your family gets sick or dies or there's not enough food. You get all the blame. 100% of the blame is on you, the man. That's something we're not used to in today's society. That you're responsible, like, say you're a middle-aged man. You're responsible for your wife, your son, his wife, because you're still the patriarch. Now, that younger man is still responsible, of course, for his children as well. But you, being his father, patriarchy is oldest to youngest. So, you know, the older family, it's all on the man. So if the grandfather fails the father, and that father fails the son, the grandfather takes it as he didn't teach his son well enough, and his son didn't take care of his son well enough. The cream always rises to the top in a patriarchy, and it's always that oldest man. It's a very different thing that we're not used to. to really have to take responsibility that if something goes wrong, it's on you. There is no one else to blame. It is the man. And they work so hard because of this devotion to their family and their fear of being judged as such, they might literally die trying. He says, recently the temperatures here dropped to well below zero, yet I saw Amish buggies out every day, some with sleds, others with fishing tents placed in the carts to keep their faces from freezing. They were working on an Amish house under construction nearby. It was too cold for me to even step outside, yet they were out and working every day, all winter, climbing on icy roofs and hauling lumber in sub-zero temperatures. The patriarch is powerful in Amish life. The father's decisions are final and can be questioned, but never challenged. Obedience is immediate, and from what I've seen, nearly absolute. The idea of a soft, kind authoritarianism seems accurate. I rarely see anger or cruelty. The men are not frightening or threatening so much as powerful. Such authority makes argument difficult, even pointless. When I see them sitting in their chairs, being waited on hand and foot by the woman in their family, I can't help but think of kings in medieval times. If I asked or expected my wife to do that, I would not be married for very long. Yet their children seem much more respectful of the fathers than frightened of them. The Amish culture discourages and even forbids violence of any kind. They're pacifists. And while there are reports of harm by Amish men, they are rare. Amish men do have a regal air about them. Being a patriarch is transformative. They expect to be taken care of and obeyed. The work of a household ceases the minute they arrive and are brought their tea, coffee, food, or mail. They set the family agenda. I see Amish men coming into their homes after burdensome work, building houses or plowing fields. They come and sit down, take off their boots, and the room quiets. They are the focus of attention. They ask for what they want, tea, coffee, something to eat. One of their daughters brings it instantaneously and usually quietly. When an Amish man enters the family kitchen, the conversation stops. The Amish man is either working, helping other Amish men work, or planning to buy supplies, readying soil, digging foundations. When you're working that hard all day, you don't have time to fight. You don't have time to argue. You don't have time to get up to old problem. Or to any problem, I guess I should say. You have enough energy to eat your damn dinner, spend a little bit of time with the family, maybe throw one into your wife for long enough you can have your next kid and hope it survives childbirth, and then you go to bed. As much as we joke around, wanting to say, oh, wouldn't it be great if you had women serving you hand and foot and taking care of your every desire. Every desire at that point is just to eat dinner and go to bed. That's how hardworking they are. So, what I think is interesting about this, and the Rumspringa thing, I just quickly mention this. Amish teenagers are given the choice, usually around the age of 18, 16 to 18, somewhere around there. You can go out and try alcohol, you can go out and party it up, you can go out and do whatever you want. They don't want them to. Most of them stay in the community. They use this as a time to meet the girls or the boys that they might end up marrying and having children with, but they do have the opportunity to leave. The parents and the adults of the community say, this is before they're baptized, if you want to stay before you're baptized and really officially led into the church, you got to make sure, because there's no leaving the church. So make up your mind, and now's your chance to bow out. And they say about 10% of Amish kids, 10 to 15% of Amish young people decide to leave the community. So that it is a choice. This isn't, brought upon them, and they have no choice in this life. So both the men and the women overwhelmingly choose to be part of this community. What I find fascinating about, and I didn't know this, I think when we think of the patriarchy, because of all the ways and things we're told of the youth today, and the way that feminism is taught young people and the way that it's phrased, that patriarchy is a bad thing. That men just want women to serve them hand and foot. Men just want them barefoot and pregnant. And men just want this and that and the other thing. And that's true. I think there's a lot of people that say, well, the Amish have it pretty good as far as community and children and, having friends and having a faith and having happiness. The majority of them are soft-spoken, and there's no fighting, there's no arguing. They like each other, they have good community. But the only reason that works, the only reason those women happily stay barefoot and pregnant, happily stay in the kitchen, is because those men will literally work themselves to death to provide for those women and the children and the community. And I think a lot of men, given the choice, and this is because I've asked myself this, I came across this story yesterday, and I've kind of been musing on it. I know I seem like a retard, and that I don't give much thought to things, but when I'm working out in the yard or I'm walking knucklehead over here, I think about things. Sometimes it's boobs. Other times it's weird things like, if I won $1 billion, what would I do with my life? And then there's things like, if I could forget that I knew about computers and the internet and money and what it feels like to do 120 miles per hour on a motorcycle, if I could go back, rewind back to when I was 8 or 10 years old, before all this crazy technology was out, the only thing we really had that was technology that I had any use of was the TV, the telephone, and I didn't even know anybody really, my friends, and I just talked at school, so I didn't really use the telephone. I guess it would be radio, television, and if I only had that knowledge, like, I knew television exists where you could watch Gilligan's Island, and I would have to lose that, but I would have a community, I'd have my own home, I'd be well respected, I'd have a wife that of my choosing. It's not like she was given to me. During this, that's the thing they talk about in this Rumspringa. You can find a girl you think is cute. You can find a girl you think's attractive, and if she digs you and you dig her, and you take her home from one of the singings in your buggy, you might be dating. And before you know it, you'll get married and start popping out kids. So, would I work like that and have that responsibility to have a wife and the kids and the family and all the rest of that, knowing they couldn't leave, they wouldn't divorce, they wouldn't cheat, there was the old way. I don't know. I still cannot, I don't know. Because I think I know too much now. I know too much now. But if I didn't know what I know, and I was more like, that this was the way you were raised, and you were raised with hard work, and you were raised with the knowledge of farming and building, and I don't know. Maybe in some ways life was better, but it was harder. And I think that might be the best way to phrase it. It's a good, hard life. Maybe that's the ultimate question. Is it better to live a good, hard life, or an easy, kind of shitty life? Which is more meaningful? I don't know. Kind of makes you wonder, though, doesn't it?
Men are finally saying the quiet part out loud.
There are certain conveniences, because I'm old and, apparently becoming senile, I left the bathroom warm water on for the entire night. Yeah, so even I screw up and make mistakes quite a bit, actually. And I was thinking about that. Oh, well, it's going to be an hour before I'm able to have hot water. And there are certain conveniences that, having lived in the wilderness over the period of, several months of winter, It was the end of December till about the middle of March. And it was a struggle to get wood to stay lit because it would draw moisture. And, so I was having to buy compressed gas to do cooking on a stove and boil water and all of those things we take for granted. So, yeah, on one hand, it is better to have a hard life with purpose than an easy life that lacks any quality. But there are some conveniences, such as on-demand electricity, that I can have a fan running, have these, this computer or the, video, playing, the refrigerator working, the lights, hot water, obviously, as I mentioned, in the wintertime, having heat. The water is the big thing, though, because I did laundry last night, and I filled the basin up with soap and the little laundry crystals, and then washed the clothes. And because it's warmer, I can drip dry them, and they dry relatively fast. But in the deep forest, the deep mountains of the Pacific Northwest, it's essentially a rainforest. So there are conveniences that would be missed.
I just saw a video of a man complaining about how he's been going on dates with women who can't cook, which, might be relevant if he was, looking for a personal chef, but that is the thing. He is. They are. Most men are not specifically looking for you. They are looking for someone who wants to be with them during a time that they think is when they should settle down, and also who is willing to be their unpaid chef, therapist, secretary, etc. The truth is, even the nicest man in the world would not speak to you unless, one, he found you attractive, or two, he thought that you could benefit him in some way.
Contrast what this woman is saying, and women such as her. Contrast to what was just revealed by Joker of Better Bachelor of the Amish community. What it is that the women were required and expected to do. And in exchange, what the men were then required and expected to do. That division of labor. And so I just got done commenting about having to have done laundry last night. And if you can hear, I am sweeping the mess that the chickens made again overnight. I've already washed my dishes and filtered probably a half gallon of water. These are all things that the women would be doing, but because I live with chickens and cats, it's all on me. And after I'm done sweeping these items, or this up, I'm going to clean out the litter box, finish my coffee, maybe have a second cup of coffee. I've already had 17 ounces of water, and I'll probably have at least another 17 to 34 ounces before I leave in the next half an hour. But I bring that up as we just heard the report about the Amish and the levels of work they do, or the divisions of the labor they do, and listen to what this woman is saying. Unpaid labor. That's a common theme with a lot of individuals these days, whether it is women or both men and women acting this way, I don't know. But if somebody is bringing money into the home, and then somebody is benefiting from that money, but they're expected to provide certain actions such as the cooking and the cleaning, that's not unpaid labor. You're benefiting from the labor of someone else who's providing that monetary resource.
Most of these men are not fighting for their lives in the group chat after showing a picture of you. They are not having to convince themselves to be with you or give you a chance because you have a cool personality. It is already dangerous enough for women to be in proximity to men, so if you are someone who is open to dating or finding a life partner, it is so incredibly important for you to check in with yourself and ask yourself how this man is bringing value into your life, and if the value that he is bringing outweighs whatever stress it is that he also brings in. You are the greatest investment in your life, which means that you need to protect yourself, which also means not allowing people into your space and giving access to yourself to people who just make your life harder. If your life is worse because you allow a man into it, that is the wrong man for you.
You're a victim. Here we go, CSI. Oh, dang, this queen is a shoo-in for the silver medal at the Victim Olympics. Let me get this straight, Colleen. You said that women being in proximity of men alone is already dangerous. Wow. Jump one up for living life in fear mode. And you're saying that men are looking for women who are unpaid servants. Yeah, they have to cook, they have to clean up, do everything else. Oh my. How dare those men actually demand you bring something to the table? It's almost like if they had standards. And they would say, hey, I'm not going to marry any Colleen out there just because you're born with a built-in taco and a pair of hooters at the top means that you're white quality. No, you actually have to put in the work and show that you're white quality. And you're saying that they just want to use you? And then in the same video, you're going to tell women, oh yeah, and when you get a man, make sure that he benefits you and he brings a lot of stuff to you. Like a guy paying the majority of the bills, protecting you from said men that you claim that you are already afraid of, because it's amazing how being around men is dangerous while you need to be around men to be protected. And leading the household, getting a house, getting that car, doing everything you can to make sure that you're taken care of and your children will be taken care of? No, that's not enough. You need something on top of that. You need a Gucci bag, right? You need a trip to the Bahamas. You need to make sure that somehow, some way, you're both equal, yet at the same time, he has to bring more to the table. You know, I would say that womanism brainwashed you, but it seems like womanism took your brain, put it in the wash with the extra spin cycle, with the rest of the sweaters and underwear. No laundry detergent needed, I guess. But hey, you find that generous man who's going to do all this for you, while you sit there, pat yourself on the back and say, yeah, I deserve it because I am a woman. Hear me roar. Funny thing is, your future doesn't sound like it's going to have a lot of roaring. If anything, a lot of meowing. Before we move on, I want to say thank you, fam, to all of my subscribers for supporting this channel. I truly appreciate all of you who leave comments, who like my videos, and share them on other social media platforms. I truly gotta say thanks, fam. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. And for those of you who haven't subscribed yet, I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you decide to hit that subscribe button. Moving on.
Dominique, I'm sorry to have to tell you this. I can anything worse than a broke man is a stingy.
So the comment is, reply to Dominique Flux's comment. My boyfriend of 4 years makes $2M a year and does not help me financially. So I'm presuming that he makes $2 million a year and he doesn't financially support her. I don't see the problem here. I support myself, but sometimes business is bad and I'm struggling. He never helps. He's 20 years older and is further in his career. Bottom line is, you're a strong, independent. Don't need no man. You've got your bills that you created, your responsibilities. You know, you need to satisfy those obligations. Quit sponging off of others.
This situation has so many red flags, I don't even know where to begin. First,
The only red flag is the woman who's complaining about it. Well, okay, it's not the only one. And this woman who's championing her victim status. This is absurd. This is the reason people are done. This is the reason I advocate for men to join the strike. Boys and men of all ages, develop your skills, trade amongst like-minded individuals. Look, I'm not trying to end the species, but as we've already witnessed, the Amish will keep it going, one way or another. And as I said recently, a man who can break free of this constant brainwashing, this conditioning, this behavioral conditioning, can do it on their own by returning to nature and learning how to build, survive, and then thrive in that environment. You're going to rapidly learn what it is that matters. You're going to see what is the drama that is unnecessary. And this is the reason I advocate for learning how to play music and learn how to paint and to read classic literature, is that it cannot be all work and no play. You have to have creative outlets also. And that creativity may come out in your craftsmanship as you improve it. So you're not a robot. You're never going to be a robot. Keep that in mind.
Start with the age, okay? He's 30 years older than you, and yet he doesn't want to help you financially. Which means he's playing the whole, I don't want a woman who wants me for my money game. Yet he shamelessly dates somebody who's 20 years younger, meaning he wants a woman for her youth and her beauty. If he genuinely wanted a woman who didn't need his money, he should date women who are his age and financially independent. But he's not doing that. Then there's the fact that he earns so much. Okay, it's not just that he earns a good salary, okay? This isn't above average sort of a salary. This is $2 million every single year. And yet he's happy to watch you struggle and not help you. There are men younger than him who earn less than him who would be happy to pay your bills and give you an allowance. And you're wasting your time with this guy for free? Or be with a man who will sit idly by watching you suffer and not help you, even though he has the means to help you. A good man who really loved you would never be able to just sit by, watch you struggle, and know that, he could help and do nothing. And finally, let's talk about the 4 years boyfriend situation. What's that about, okay? He doesn't want to marry you? You don't want to get married? What's going on there? Let me guess. He doesn't want to get married because it's too much of a financial liability. So what is it exactly that you gain from being with this man? Because if you're going to struggle financially, you might as well date a hot guy who's the same age as you. And if you're going to date a really old man, you might as well just not struggle financially. Say this, hot boy toy or nice generous sugar daddy. One of those two options would be acceptable. This, I don't know what this is.
And if you saw the image of the woman who's giving the bad advice, you can tell she doesn't get the hot guy. If anything, she smashed him past.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Well, Collins, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but the only thing worse than a broke, dusty gal is a broke, dusty gal with a golden shovel. I mean, aren't you women the first ones to say, hey, this isn't about financial stuff, this is about emotions, about the vibes, about being able to get along with the guy? Obviously, she was able to get along with the guy and have all the vibes, but she's mad because he's a multimillionaire and he won't help her with her bills? Don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure he could do that, but the question is, why should he? She said that she could provide for herself, that she could pay for her own bills. Well, I say the guy is a womanist in every sense of the word. Want to know why? Because he's supporting her being all strong and independent, taking on the world by herself, and he's just giving her the only thing that she needs, companionship. I mean, is this Colleen saying that she needs more than just companionship from a guy? You actually need a man's money? Are you dating him because he's a multimillionaire, or are you dating him because he brings himself to the table? His emotions, his charm, his jokes, his wittiness, all the things that you women say that you bring to the table. Well, he's bringing just that. He's not bringing his money because, he doesn't want you gals to objectify him and see him as an ATM. That would be so wrong. I mean, this Colleen giving advice says that the guy makes $2 million a year. He's happy to watch her struggle. Excuse me, Colleen, aren't you women the first ones that say when the guy is a brokey, leave him? So you leave a man because of financial status. But you won't stay with him when he, again, has a higher financial status, but he's giving you the freedom of you handling business. being a girl boss, taking care of everything. What's wrong with that? I mean, this is a crazy idea from this gorilla. There are multiple possibilities here. One possibility could be that the guy actually doesn't make $2 million a year and is exaggerating his finances. But then again, even if he made half that or a quarter of that, that's still a substantial amount of money. So he could still help her out financially if he wanted to. Another possibility, and I know this sounds really nutty and out there, but maybe, just maybe, he's trying to let her prove to him that she's not with him for his money. That she wants to be with him just to be with him. She's not asking for him to pay for everything. He wants her to prove to him that she is trustworthy. That she's going to put in the time because, as this queen said, oh, yeah, there are plenty of younger men out there that are willing to help you out financially. Okay, how many multimillionaires are out there, queen? Or more importantly, how many multimillionaires can this woman get? Because guess who can be replaced a lot easier? Her. There are plenty of young women out there who would date this multimillionaire. And if you argue, well, he won't pay their stuff either, so he'll lose out on the young girls too. Yeah, and then there's another young one that'll replace that one too. I mean, sure, women give women dog-dropping level of advice. Yeah, let the multimillionaire go, so the next queen can come in and pass his test and get the ring out of it. Really great advice there, sister. I'm pretty sure you're the type of queen that advises married women to leave their husbands and become single mothers because somehow, some way, the grass is greener on the other side, and her all-important feels trump the necessity of the family. Moving on.
So more fun in the world of me trying to date. I met somebody on Facebook dating, and we exchanged numbers really fast, actually. You know, sometimes you can just tell, totally a real person, not worried about being a catfish, because we have video chat, we have talked on the phone, we've texted. I have his phone number. He has my phone number. We're friends on Facebook, you know, so I'm definitely a real person, and so that's not even a problem, but so we had plans to go out yesterday on Friday night, and there was a lot of unfortunate events that happened between me and my backs, you know, abrasion, and the steroids they gave me not being able to sleep and me being really tired. And then we were supposed to go out, and I set my alarm for 6 p.m., and it turned out his daughter, who was at her aunt's house, got violently projectile sick, like really bad, like some kind of 24-hour stomach virus. And so he had to pick her up from his sister's house and take her to the emergency room, where they sat for like 7 hours while they pumped her full of fluids and gave her like some sedative and stuff like that. So she's back home and she's fine, but he didn't get home until like midnight. And I'm on the phone with him, and you know, he was so tired, and he was changing his clothes while I'm sitting on the phone talking to him, and then all of a sudden he got like silent because he passed out on me. Like all of a sudden I'm like, hello, are you there? Hello? Are you okay? Nothing. He was dead. So I hung up the phone, obviously. He had to get up for work at like 3:30 in the morning, so he only got a few hours of sleep. He did go to work. He starts calling me at 8 a.m. I'm not awake yet. I just went to sleep a few hours ago because I was up late. I am not awake at 8 o'clock in the morning, but I talked to him for quite a while and then hung up, and then I went back to sleep for a while he got some work done, and then we planned to get together, you know, this evening. I'm supposed to be tonight.
Alright, Coeens, there's a reason I actually played that last video. It's because you Coeens always say that men need to bring more to the table, they need to be more active, they need to put in the effort. That was just a minute and a half of pure babble. Nothing in any possible direction of an actual coherent conversation. And this is what men have to put up with. I know that you believe that, oh, talking to men, they just talk about themselves a lot and they don't ask questions about us. You wanna know why? This is a prime example of why that is. Because when men ask certain women, let me be honest, most women, about themselves, they go on these types of rants. Oh, well, I'm like this, I'm like that, I'm like that, I'm like that, I'm like... It is painful to listen to. And a lot of times, a guy will just listen to all this thinking, okay, let me just power through this, because at the end, I'm gonna get something out of this. And when they don't get anything out of it, and they ghost you, then women are thinking, oh, why did he do that? Oh, he's so rude. A real man wouldn't do that. A real man would sit down and listen to my interesting conversation because I am so funny and I know that I'm not boring because I don't talk. I'm active and I'm there partaking in the conversation. No, sweetheart, you're not partaking in the conversation. You're hijacking the conversation with your incoherent speaking. How about this? How about those queens out there who decide that they want to belittle men and say that, oh, men don't want to listen and just say all the negative things about men? Why don't you sit down with a girl like this and listen to the entire story? I guarantee you won't last 15 minutes. You're going to be constantly injecting, interrupting, trying to change the subject, trying to get her on track to something. And then you'll be labeled toxic, controlling, didn't ask me enough questions, just wants to talk all the time, wants me to listen.
Well, I went to go take a shower. I told him, he still needed to take a shower. He's so nervous. It's so sweet. He's so nervous. He's talking to me on video chat while he's walking up and down his street because he's one of those people that when he gets nervous, he absolutely cannot sit still. So he's like out walking just up and down his road talking to me. And was like, are you that nervous? And he's like, kind of. He hasn't dated in a long time because he's been raising 2 kids. But anyway, so we're supposed to go after dinner. We picked the place. We're going to this tavern that's kind of between the 2 of us. We live about an hour and a half apart. So I go jump in the shower. I call him as soon as I get out, and I got no answer. So I try texting him. I got no answer. I try video chatting with him. Nothing. I wait a few minutes. I do the whole thing again. Nothing. He fell asleep on me. He has to have. It's now midnight. That was at like 6:30, and it's now midnight, and I still heard nothing. So I guarantee you he's fallen asleep on me, which I'm sure he needs it, and that's totally fine if he needs to. But it would have been nice if he had let me know, or woke up at some point and let me know that he's okay. Because, you know, the last time I talked to him, he was like walking up and down the road outside and talking about somebody driving like a. So I presume he's okay. But anyway, so still haven't met the guy, but he seems really sweet. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to try to put all my eggs in one basket or anything. But anyway, so yeah, so that is more fun in the world of me trying to date. I get kids and stuff gets in the way, but damn, it's twice the guy's passed out on me. Anyway, here we go. Look at your place.
Alright, Colleen, I gotta say this before I even give my opinion of this latter half of your video. Who in the hell is snoring in the background? I'm pretty sure half of my male viewers are like, yo, who is that? Is that the guy you're talking about? Is that a pet? Is that somebody else? It's really annoying. Also, you talking about this guy saying that he's really nervous because, like, oh, I don't know about him, he's really nervous because he's raising 2 kids. I bet you said the guy's really nervous going on a date with you, but he's figuring, oh man, I hope she doesn't go to a 5-star restaurant because girl of her size, oh snap, I don't think I can afford it. That's half my paycheck right there. Hopefully she has no problem going to like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Maybe I can afford that with her. Apart from that, sister, let me just say, a guy who lives an hour and a half away from you and is willing to date you, you gotta know that he is like on his last leg of dating. He's like, damn, I have got to be super desperate to go on this date. This isn't me knocking you kings out there. This is me saying the truth. And I'm pretty sure my mailers are thinking the same thing. An hour and a half away to get on a date with you and hear that kind of babble? Kind of sus there, bud. Now, not completely knocking this queen. I'm here to give her some props because, as always, it's not a 100% on one side, 0% on the other side. There is a balance here. And I'm giving her credit where credit is due. She is understanding that the guy was tired. He tried to power through, but he passed out because he's exhausted. That's one thing that you queens who are listening, you don't understand. A rule of thumb is the hotter the woman is, the less she has patience for a guy being exhausted because of his work. And her, she's actually being very understanding and patient because the guy is exhausted for his situation. And I give her credit for that. But I know the argument can be made, well, her at her level, she really can't complain. But I gotta say, sister, this girl is gonna give you the best advice this girl can give you. Considering everything you've explained in this last 3+ minutes of video about your dating and how this guy has got his own life going and his complexities and you have your own life, I'm gonna say something here. A guy who's an hour and a half from you and he's willing to date you and all the things that are happening, I think you struck a little bit of gold here. And let me explain why. You see, a lot of women say that they're bored in their relationships and this is why they leave their relationships. You just explained a guy who has his own problems and is bringing kind of like a little exciting spark to your relationship. These problems are giving you both kind of a challenge here. And let's be honest, in modern day women don't like to be bored. They like to have a challenge. Even single mothers who are way low on the totem pole, they want a challenge to come out of it. And I think you found it here. I think that's the reason why you made this video. And you're sharing it out because it's exciting in a way. So, good on you, queen. This world is going to give you 2 thumbs up. Keep going. But please, don't sound like a frickin' 5th grade school teacher because it doesn't work out. But then again, there are lessons to be taught on all sides here. Hopefully, you're going to learn yours.
And skip me.
I'm just saying, if you enjoyed this audit, click on the video in the end screen for more content. If you would like to support the channel, please follow the link in the description to donate to our beer fund. Or like, subscribe, and share this video on other social media platforms. If you agree or disagree with anything about this audit, please let us know in the comments. I'm going to leave this audit right here. I'll see all of you in the next episode.